Scandinavian Star, a ferry cruise ship that carries thousands of passengers and vehicles safely across the seas for nearly 2 decades. Then, a normal crossing turns into a floating fireball, a hell on water for nearly 500 people in just 45 minutes. Now, using cutting-edge computer technology, we reveal exactly what went wrong. Disasters don't just happen. They're triggered by a chain of critical events. Unravel the fateful decisions in those final seconds from disaster. Norway, Oslo. April 6, 1990. It's Easter vacation. And after a brand new renovation, the 465-foot-long Scandinavian Star has joined the popular route between Norway and Denmark. She's scheduled to depart from Oslo at 7:30 p.m., carrying cars, 383 passengers, and 99 crew members. But the loading of the ship falls behind schedule. Waiting in a car on the dock with her family is Heidi Jensen, 11 years old at the time.
We heard about the delay, so my mother and brother went on board, while my dad and I waited.
Despite the delay, the passengers are looking forward to their voyage. A restful week is in store for Jan Harsum, his pregnant wife Christine, and their 1.5-year-old son Halvor.
We decided to go on Easter vacation to have some fun. We were looking forward to it because we were expecting that summer to be very busy. Spring was in the air. There was a nice atmosphere. The weather was clear.
Perfect conditions for the Scandinavian Star. Nearly 13,000 tons of her. She is impressive, boasting 9 decks. Deck 3 carries cars and trucks in the center, and around its edges are 2 decks of passenger cabins. Most of the passenger cabins are on Deck 5. On the 3 decks above, there are lounges, shops, a restaurant, bar, and disco, all on a route well known for its party atmosphere. The bridge housing the ship's main controls is on Deck 8. At the helm this night is Captain Hugo Larsen. With 22 years' experience, the passengers should be in good hands. 9:45 p.m. Finally, the mooring lines are cast off and the Scandinavian Star departs, albeit 2 hours and 15 minutes late. All on board is not as it should be. The interior renovation is unfinished and creates confusion over the simplest tasks. Jan Harsum has already had a mix-up over his cabin number, and the problems continue at reception.
Then the key we were given wasn't the right one, so I had to go all the way back to reception again to get a new key.
Even an 11-year-old knows that something is wrong.
The crew didn't understand Norwegian or English or anything, and were running about looking very stressed.
But soon the disorganization is little more than an inconvenience. They put the problems behind them and enjoy the restaurant, bar, and other facilities on board.
I was looking forward to going to the tax-free shop and doing some shopping. It's the sort of thing girls that age enjoy. I didn't want to stay in the cabin. That was boring.
At midnight, younger passengers like Heidi are in bed, but Jan Harsum is restless. So he leaves his sleeping wife and young son to check out the activity at the Star's slot machines.
Our son Halvor was only little and needed to sleep, so I walked around the ship a bit, just observing people and situations, and it seemed as if people were settling in.
The Scandinavian Star is now at her cruising speed of 21 knots. The sea is calm, the night clear. The gentle motion of the ship should promise passengers a good night's sleep. But their dreams will soon morph into nightmares. 2 a.m. The Scandinavian Star has been at sea for just over 4 hours. The late-night crowd is still partying in the ship's bar and disco on Deck 8, but their fun is about to end. 5 decks below, a small fire has started in the hallway. The fire takes hold and gains strength, creeping up the walls and along the ceilings, while the sleeping and partying passengers remain oblivious. Not even 10 minutes after it starts, the fire reaches a stairwell and climbs through the ship's interior, igniting Deck 4. The passengers still have no idea that beneath them, a fire is tearing its way through the ship. Captain Larson, up on the Star's bridge, is also unaware of the fire. The smoke and flames are growing into a monstrous inferno, yet no one has seen the fire and set off the alarm. A group of young athletes is en route to a training camp, enjoying a trip of freedom and independence. One of them is Vidar Skillingsæs. He was 14 years old.
For a 14-year-old traveling without parents to Denmark, along with the rest of the gang, it was very exciting. And clearly, not having to go to bed when our parents would have told us to was great. So we could explore the ship's facilities, like the disco and slot machines.
2:11 a.m. Suddenly, Vidar and his friends notice smoke pouring from a stairwell on Deck 5.
We saw smoke rising from the floor below, so we went straight down to reception.
Receptionist Solveig Eckerhot receives the shocking news.
3 boys came running towards me and they were screaming, "There's a fire!"
At first they didn't take us seriously, but then they saw the smoke following us.
I saw the smoke billowing after them. It was so thick I could barely make them out. And I stood there thinking, we can't deal with this. We're going straight to hell. So I call the bridge, call Captain Larson, and tell him there's a fire raging on the stern deck.
At 2:15 a.m., 15 minutes after the fire ignites, Captain Larson finally learns that his ship is in trouble. Warning alarms start to go off as other people see smoke and hit the emergency switches, but they only sound on the bridge. With no idea of the scale of the fire, every decision the captain makes will have a direct impact on the hundreds of people on board the Star. And some will not live to recount the horror that is to come. Seconds from disaster will continue in a moment.
Take a good look around, and if you're looking down, put a little love in your heart.
Smart Balance Buttery Spread. Enjoy its award-winning buttery taste and support healthy cholesterol.
Put a little love in your heart.
Try the Smart Balance Food Plan. Reduce saturated fats and maintain healthy cholesterol. In your heart, you know it's smart. Visit smartbalance.com for details.
Cheez-It packs so much real cheese in such a small bite. People are wondering,
how does Cheez-It do it?
It's simple, really.
That's a go.
Cheez-It.
Lots and lots of cheese baked into little bites. Cheez-It, the big cheese.
I shall now read the last will and testament. The deceased leaves all of his money, property, and other valuables to Miss Jacqueline Monique Smith.
Red Bull gives you wings.
Are you like me? I have high blood pressure, and I have high cholesterol. Sometimes problems come in twos, but sometimes help can come in one. Catawit. Catawit contains 2 proven medicines, Norvasc for high blood pressure and Lipitor for high cholesterol, combined in 1 pill. Catawit. Catawit is one of many treatment options that I discussed with my doctor. Ask your doctor if Catawit is right for you. Along with diet and exercise, 1 pill doing 2 jobs for me. My doctor said Catawit is not for everyone. It's not for people with liver problems and women who are nursing, pregnant, or may become pregnant. To check for liver problems, you need simple blood tests. Tell your doctor about any heart problems and all other medications you are taking, or if you experience muscle pain or weakness, as they may be a sign of a rare but serious side effect. For blood pressure and cholesterol-lowering benefits, it's Catawit. 1 pill, 2 medicines. Makes sense to you? Makes sense to me. 1 pill, 2 medicines. Ask your doctor if Catawit is right for you.
Guys, you had to know this was coming.
Actually, we feel blindsided. We just weren't expecting you to block us.
Well, after last week's episode, what am I going to do? There are children in this house, Marcelo. You tell me you're all going to go straight and start acting like kittens? Stop shivving each other in the prison yard?
Shanking.
What?
It's a verb. To shank.
Look, I'm not asking you to change your ways. I'm just blocking you so the kids can't see. Now, who wants lemonade?
We now return to seconds from disaster. A raging fire is rapidly spreading through the ferry cruise ship Scandinavian Star. Of the 8 decks, both 3 and 4 are ablaze, and the lives of nearly 500 people are in grave danger. "2:15 a.m. Fire alarms sound on the bridge to alert the captain, but unfortunately, this is the only place they are heard. One by one, Captain Larson quickly closes the fire doors using remote controls on the bridge. Standard safety procedure to stop the fire from spreading through the interior. This course of action will provide a vital clue in the investigation to come. Captain Larson then sounds the ship's general alarm to alert everyone on board that there's a fire. This should be audible throughout the ship. 2:20 a.m. On deck 5, 3 decks below the captain, Jan Harsum is startled awake by his pregnant wife, Christine. Their young son, Halvor, is also about to be shocked from slumber.
And then I see Christine leave the cabin. And I pick up Halvor on my arm and leave. The moment I get out into the corridor, I realize I've come straight from a deep sleep into something I really cannot comprehend. Because I cannot see anything. There's smoke everywhere like a thick, thick fog. So I can't even see the walls of the corridor around me.
Jan grabs his son and runs through the thick smoke, relying on his memory of the ship's layout. He can't even see his wife, Christine, who leaves the cabin just seconds before him. Now the fire is a raging inferno, and it spits out a fireball on deck 5 that races across an open area from one side of the ship to the other. Both sides are ablaze. The fireball passes only feet from the closed door of the cabin where 11-year-old Heidi Jensen and her family are sleeping. The hallway outside is almost engulfed by the flames.
I just stood there screaming and staring into a wall of flames. There was lots of crackling. It was horrible. And then my dad gave me a push in the back, and I ran. That was the worst bit, running away from the flames. And when I got upstairs, I thought they were following me.
Luckily, Heidi runs straight into a group of fleeing passengers who lead her straight to the lifeboats on deck 7. The fire is now burning on decks 3, 4, and 5, and the staircase acts as a chimney, sucking the fire upwards. It continues to climb, igniting the restaurant on deck 6. Fighting the fumes, Jan Harsum manages to find his way to fresh air at the back of the ship on deck 5. But his pregnant wife Christine is missing. He leaves his son with others and goes on a desperate search to find her.
I attempted to go back down the stairs again with the intention of looking for Christine. But I was met with such a mighty burst of smoke that came up the stairs that I remember the thought occurring to me that if I do not turn around and go back up now, then Halvor will lose me as well.
2:24 a.m. On the bridge of the blazing Scandinavian Star, Captain Larsen has no accurate information on where the fire has reached or how fast it is spreading. Realizing the situation is out of control, he sets his VHF radio to the international emergency frequency, channel 16.
Mayday, mayday, mayday. Scandinavian Star is on fire. Please assistance. Need immediate assistance.
He sends out a mayday to any ships in the area, the most extreme distress signal at sea.
Mayday, mayday, mayday.
Captain Larsen cuts the engines to make it easier to launch the lifeboats. The Scandinavian Star is now adrift, approximately 20 miles from the nearest port. By 2:30 a.m., the ventilation system is turned off, which unfortunately allows smoke to seep into the passenger cabins through the door vents. The trapped passengers are in a terrifying situation, and those awake desperately seek refuge from the smoke anywhere they can, in closets, in showers, but there is no escape. With no clear emergency procedures to follow, the ship's crew is in chaos. Only a few think to put on breathing apparatus before they enter the smoke-filled interior to search for survivors. One of them is Staff Captain Kirsten Hensen, who described the awful scene to the ship's receptionist, Solveig Eckerhardt.
He had a terrible experience down there. One mother, he said, had sat with her back to the wall, holding her 2 children. They were dead. He wanted to take her up, but she said no. Let me be. I want to die with my children. And then she died.
2:50 a.m. 25 minutes after receiving the Mayday distress signal, the first ship arrives on the scene, the ferry Stena Saga. One of the crew members records the terrifying sight that greets them. This is actual video of the tragedy. The waters around the blazing ship are filled with drifting lifeboats. The fire is completely out of control. Lennart Nordgren, the captain of the Stena Saga, is shocked by the scene.
We saw the whole of the stern ablaze. We could hear people screaming, and we could also hear the noise of the fire itself, a crackling sound, a bit like popcorn. The flames were 12 to 15 meters high.
Other vessels join the Stena Saga to begin the painstaking job of retrieving the drifting lifeboats. 3:20 a.m. Smoke fills the bridge of the Scandinavian Star where Captain Larsen stands. He radios Captain Nordgren on the Stena Saga and tells him that he must abandon ship. A long-standing rule of the seas, Nordgren knows that the captain should be the last to leave his ship, so he asks for specific verification, and Captain Larsen clearly states that everyone has been evacuated. But the Scandinavian Star's captain has made a fatal mistake. Outside, more than 30 people remain trapped at the rear of Deck 5, and Captain Larsen has abandoned ship. leaving them all to suffer a horrible fate. The lifeboats on Deck 7 are blocked by the raging fire, and the water is too cold to jump. Jan Harsum is trapped, desperate to protect his baby son from the inferno.
Very heavy smoke rose from all the openings in the ship. The fire had an overwhelming energy to it. We heard what sounded like deep thunder rolling inside the ship.
Rescue boats see them and send lifeboats to the rear of the blazing ship. Jan escapes by climbing down the ropes with his son strapped to him. And rescuers are finally under the impression that all the passengers are saved. 5:30 a.m. The first emergency services enter the Scandinavian Star. 9 firefighters from Gothenburg, Sweden are lowered onto the deck. Fire Chief Ingvar Brynfors is stunned by what he sees.
When we made contact with the ship, the sight made our hair stand on end. It was an incredible sight. The sky was blazing red against the black horizon to the west.
7 a.m. Firefighters have been on board the Star for an hour and a half, searching for survivors. When they reach the rear section of Deck 5, they are horrified to discover dead bodies everywhere.
It was like the gates of hell. People were lying all over the place in the corridors. We broke down the doors so we could get into other places. And there were people lying on their beds, in the lavatories, in the showers. We counted 71 victims in there.
The final count at the rear of Deck 5 is 76. Nearly half the people who die succumb in this one small area. What made it so dangerous? Survivors are taken by rescue boats to Sweden, Norway, and Denmark. People become separated in the confusion, and many don't even know if their loved ones are safe in a different port or left behind on the burning ship. This news footage shows Heidi Jensen and her family as they arrive in Sandefjord, Norway. For her father, an ex-sailor, seen here carrying her younger brother, it's too much to handle.
I saw Dad's reaction. He started crying. I think he began to take in what had happened. It had not sunk in before that. But when I saw him reacting in that way, I started thinking it was something big we had experienced, something awful.
Firefighters on the Scandinavian Star continue to scour the smoking ferry while it's towed to Lysekil in Sweden. As they widen their search, the death toll continues to rise. Jan Harsum and his son Halvor reach land, but there is still no news of his pregnant wife, Christine.
It's almost too much for the human mind to cope with. Had she come out someplace else? Had she been picked up by another craft?
After a week of agony, the police deliver the awful news.
So Christine's casket and our little son, she was, as I've mentioned, pregnant, were then brought to the churchyard in Asker where we lived and placed there.
Christine Harsum leaves the same cabin at the same time as Jan, yet he lives and she dies. In all, 158 victims lose their lives in just 45 minutes on board the Scandinavian Star. Now, we rewind the events of that day and go deep into the investigation to reveal what really happened. How did the fire start? Why did so many people die in one small section of the ship? Advanced computer simulation will take us where no camera can, into the heart of the disaster zone. A team of Scandinavian experts assembles to investigate the disaster. Using their data, we can piece together the deadly chain of events to find out what caused this terrible tragedy. This is actual footage of the aftermath. What sparked this devastating fire? To find out, investigators have to track down where it began, the point of origin. Leading the fire investigation team is the head of the Norwegian Fire Research Institute, Kjell Schmidt-Petersen.
What we were supposed to do is to describe the development of the fire, what started the fire, at what time it started, where it started. It's not necessarily easy to find the origin, so you have to go backwards. The whole thing is a puzzle.
Investigators track the path of the fire damage through the interior of the wrecked ship. It's like playing the fire in reverse, leading them back towards the ignition site, the point of origin. The trail ends in a hallway on deck 3. The answer to what starts the devastating blaze must lie in the wreckage of this hallway, seen here in their original video. A pattern of burn damage marks the exact spot where the fire started, and they even discover traces of cloth. They conclude that the fire was started in a pile of bedding, but how?
There was no electrical equipment, there was no heating from the chimney case, and there was no hydraulic oil system in that corridor. We found no equipment or anything that could have naturally started the fire.
It could have been set accidentally by a passenger or crew member, but the passenger cabins on deck 3 were not in use. The deck should have been empty. Investigators are mystified. The truth will only become clear when they unravel all the secrets of the Scandinavian Star's fatal blaze. 2 a.m. Using forensic science, Schmidt-Petersen's team calculates that this is when the fire starts, and there are only 45 minutes to disaster. Investigators focus on the escalation of the blaze to determine how the fire, sparked in a simple pile of bedding, turns into a massive inferno and sweeps through the 465-foot-long Scandinavian Star. Stay tuned for more seconds from disaster.
Tomorrow, in a culture built on ancient customs and rituals, he is sumo's biggest bad boy, which makes him pretty big. Explorer follows a 21st century celebrity as he goes head-to-head with 1,500 years of tradition. Inside Sumo premieres tomorrow at 8 on Nat Geo.
Your throat hurts. Your cough hurts. Even your congestion hurts. And you've got the whole day ahead of you. Think fast. Introducing new Tylenol Cold Rapid Release Gels. They relieve even your most painful cold symptoms fast. New Tylenol Cold Rapid Release Gels.
Attention drivers statewide. If you are insured with Allstate, Geico, State Farm, or any other car insurer, you may be overpaying by hundreds of dollars. Find out how to get immediate savings through AIGdirect.com. What would it take to get you to switch your car insurance? If we told you that you could save $364 a year, wouldn't you pick up the phone? Start dialing, because you could save that much. People who switched from Geico saved around $370. From Allstate, $430. Your savings could be higher, like this driver who switched, or this one. And no other company gives you AIG Security Advantage that includes roadside assistance at no additional cost. Immediate savings available through AIGdirect.com. Call for a free rate quote today. Call 1-800-211-SAVE for a free rate quote. You could save hundreds of dollars. That number again is 1-800-211-SAVE. Call now or visit AIGdirect.com.
Some people like to pretend a flood could never happen to them, and that their homeowner's insurance protects them. It doesn't. Stop pretending. It can happen to you.
Protect your home with flood insurance. Call 1-888-FLOOD-60 for your free brochure. That's 1-888-FLOOD-60.
Good idea!
Go for it.
You know, people are really getting behind me in my decision to take the first step towards getting healthier on the Jenny Craig program. I hope I inspire them to do something good for themselves, too.
Getting healthier makes sense to me.
Lose 20 pounds for $20 plus the cost of food. Call 1-800-JENNY20 today.
Let's take the first step together. Call Jenny.
Night.
He had no heartbeat. There was just absolutely no sign of life at all. This is probably the most extraordinary case I've ever seen. We administered a counter shock.
Clear. I saw a pinpoint of light, and it began to pull me.
There's a blurry line between someone who appears dead and someone who is dead.
I Came Back from the Dead, tonight at 10 Eastern on Nat Geo.
And now back to seconds from disaster. A devastating fire tears through the ferry cruise ship Scandinavian Star, killing 158 men, women, and children. It's one of the worst maritime disasters in Scandinavian history. Using advanced computer graphics based on the official report, we go deep into the investigation to unravel the deadly chain of events. What starts the fire remains unclear. Investigators do establish that it began at 2 a.m. when a pile of bedding ignites on deck 3. But they are puzzled as to how the fire grows into a massive blaze. To fully investigate the fire and unravel its secrets, they have to recreate the fatal blaze, but this time in a laboratory. They replicate the conditions on board the Scandinavian Star to a T, with the exact hallway, the same development of the fire, and the same materials used. All has to be accurate for the experiment to be sound. Investigators discover that the bedding fire alone would have burned out, and the ship's steel walls and fireproof asbestos coating should have prevented the fire from spreading. Among the charred interior, they find that the asbestos boards have not burned. If it isn't the lining boards themselves, what is the fuel source that sends the fire racing through the ship? Investigators dig deeper and discover that the decorative white finish that covers the asbestos boards has completely disappeared. But this thin coat of laminated plastic is little more than the thickness of a CD.
The first thing we did is to investigate how is it ignited, what is needed to ignite it, how much heat will it release.
Schmidt-Peterson's experiments reveal that the laminated plastic wall coating is extremely flammable. Burning 10 square feet of this lining is equivalent to throwing almost half a gallon of gasoline into the blaze. The main fuel for the fire on board the Star is this thin plastic coating. Its only job is to make the ship's interior look good, but it's so flammable that the fireproofing of the asbestos is useless. 36 minutes remain. Based on their experiments, Schmidt-Peterson's group calculates that the laminated plastic wall coating is now burning out of control. They know that it fuels the fire, but how does it spread beyond the hallway on deck 3? The ship's fireproof bulkheads and fire doors should contain the blaze, but they don't.
We have 2 bulkheads on the ship, one here and one here, and they're supposed to divide the ship into 3 different compartments, giving the result that a fire within one compartment should not spread to the other compartment.
Fire doors allow passengers through the bulkheads and subdivide each compartment to contain a fire. But all this is useless if the fire doors are not shut. On the bridge, Captain Larson closes fire doors via remote control in areas where fire alarms are activated. But on the Scandinavian Star, the passenger area fire alarms are not automatic. They can only be activated manually, which means that doors only shut in areas where people see the blaze and press the alarm button.
And of course, in the area where the fire started, there was no one pushing any button, so the doors were kept open.
With little more than half an hour remaining, the critical moment finally arrives. The blaze passes through the open fire door into the rest of the ship. Investigators need to discover why the fire reaches Deck 5 much more swiftly than it should, and why it then roars across the ship in a devastating fireball. What makes it spread so rapidly through the Star's interior? Eyewitness testimony is a key part of unraveling the chain of events. 25 minutes remain. Kristen Blindheim stumbles out of his Deck 4 cabin and heads for the nearest staircase.
We were only a couple of meters from the stairwell, and there was black smoke rolling down the stairs.
But smoke should rise, not fall. How does Kristen Blindheim see smoke traveling down the stairwell?
That is a bit puzzling, that the fire is going like that. So we were a bit, not surprised, but we thought that was weird.
Investigators follow the trail of smoke and fire damage downhill, which leads them to this door on Deck 3. This is where the passenger area joins the car deck. This photograph from the investigation shows a pattern of fire damage, indicating that the door was partly open during the blaze. Another clue comes from the scorched van parked by the door. The damage is caused by hot gases coming through the door and burning the vehicle. The car deck is ventilated by powerful fans that suck dangerous exhaust fumes out of the ship. But with the fire door to the car deck open during the blaze, the fans literally suck the fire through the ship. The fire starts in a hallway on Deck 3. Within 20 minutes, the airflow sucks it up the staircase to Deck 5. There it transforms into a fireball that roars across the open space on Deck 5 to the stairwell on the other side of the ship. The smoke and flame is then sucked down the stairwell through the open fire door and into the car deck. 10 minutes later, the ventilation fans are off, but it's too late. What remains a mystery to investigators is why 39 victims at the back of Deck 5 fail to get out of their cabins. They focus on how the passengers are alerted. The main warning comes when the ship's alarm sounds. This should have alerted the passengers. The team investigates the layout of the cabins and the position of the alarm sirens. They discover that for 59% of the occupied cabins in the rear of Deck 5, the sound level of the alarm is less than 57 decibels, much quieter than inside a luxury car traveling on a highway. More than likely, the sleeping passengers never heard the alarm. It was just too quiet. Expert fire training officer Chris Harris knows why.
It starts off very loud, and it starts traveling down the alleyway. And it has to turn left or right through another alleyway, and it carries on and on and on. But of course, it's passing the cabin doors where the passengers are. So it's restricted again. Plus, of course, the ship being a living ship, we have inbred sounds all the time. The ventilation, the engine noise.
With the alarm masked by the distance, the ventilation noise, and the engines, the passengers in those cabins probably never even woke up. But 37 of the victims at the rear of Deck 5 are found in the hallways outside their cabins. They must have either heard the commotion or the alarm. So why did they fail to escape? The mystery surrounding those who survived and those who perished is about to be solved. We'll continue with Seconds from Disaster in a moment.
A new and improved and even more confusing diet seems to hit the shelf every single day. Like, look at this one. Day 2 on diet. Page 107. I mean, what am I supposed to eat for the 3 days it takes to read the first 106 pages? Diets don't work. Weight Watchers does. It isn't a diet. It's about learning a healthy way to eat, cook, and live. And our new Kickstart Toolkit makes it easy to lose weight right away. The right way.
Call 1-800-494-1313.
Or go to WeightWatchers.com/Kickstart. And join now to get free registration and a new Kickstart Toolkit. Weight Watchers. Stop dieting. Start living.
Let's see. Gossip magazines, dark chocolate, Italian shoes, definitely a Kansas City ribeye, and pulling up to the boys' club in one of these. These are just a few of my favorite things.
I'm a new soul. I came to this strange world hoping I could learn a bit about how to give and take. I'm a young soul in this very strange world hoping I could learn a bit about what is true and fake. La 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 la.
Okay, you know what ages our skin? Free radicals from sun, stress, and pollution. So what's a girl to do?
Fight back with Neutrogena Antioxidant Age Reverse. Chock full of antioxidants, it helps neutralize free radicals and reverses the signs of aging for younger-looking skin.
Why look older if you don't have to?
Neutrogena Antioxidant Age Reverse. No wonder Neutrogena is recommended most by dermatologists.
The road is not filled with drivers. It's filled with people. So let's treat people more like they're in our home and less like they're in our way. Allstate believes safe drivers should get an extra reward. Introducing the Safe Driving Bonus Check. It's time to make the world a better place to drive. That's Allstate stand. Are you in good hands?
Tonight.
He had no heartbeat. There was just absolutely no sign of life at all. This is probably the most extraordinary case I've ever seen. We administered a counter shock.
Clear. I saw a pinpoint of light, and it began to pull me.
There's a blurry line between someone who appears dead and someone who is dead.
I Came Back from the Dead. Tonight at 10 Eastern on Nat Geo.
Seconds from Disaster now continues. A routine voyage on the ferry cruise ship Scandinavian Star turns deadly when a massive fire on board claims the lives of 158 people. With 30 minutes left, the alarm sounds and people in the rear of Deck 5 frantically try to escape. 37 bodies are found in the hallways. Jan Harsem's wife Christine is one of them, and yet Jan, escaping from the same cabin at the same time, survives. What did they do differently to determine this tragic twist of fate? Investigators study the layout of the ship for clues about the mysterious rear of Deck 5. Fire safety engineer Professor Ed Galea knows that what they find is horrifying.
Scandinavian Star had a particular problem on Deck 5 towards the aft section. You would find, when you walked along this corridor, it's a dead end. and the exit is just back from the end of the corridor. On the other side of the vessel, you're at a similar dead end, and then to get out, you need to come back.
Life or death is determined by spontaneous decisions as people struggle to escape from the confusing maze of the blazing star's interior. Jan Harsum and his young son Halvor turn right when they reach these hallways, but his pregnant wife Christine makes a fatal mistake and turns left, where ultimately she can't find an exit in the maze. He turns right, she turns left, a tiny decision that saves his and Halvor's life, yet takes Christine's. Investigators now understand what the victims faced trying to escape from the Scandinavian Star. But one question remains: what actually kills them? Despite the fire's ferocity, the bodies found at the rear of Deck 5 are not burned. So if it isn't the flames, what is it that claims the lives of so many victims? The investigators' attention is drawn to the thick smoke generated by the burning wall linings that fill the interior. Their experiments reveal that the smoke on the Scandinavian Star is incredibly toxic. Not only does it contain carbon monoxide, but something equally deadly: hydrogen cyanide.
Hydrogen cyanide is a rapid killer, and if you know some history, you know that that was the same gas Hitler used against the Jews in the concentration camps. So it's a real killer.
When hydrogen cyanide and carbon monoxide are inhaled together, the combination is devastating. Of the 158 victims, all but 10 perish by breathing the deadly smoke. Within 12 minutes of the start of the fire, computer simulations suggest that the toxic smoke on Deck 5 was already reaching a fatal level.
We reckoned that when the captain got a message of the fire, saw this light comes up on this board, the situation was critical already for the people on board.
Once the toxic smoke reaches the passenger areas, the timeline becomes less exact. The victims did not survive to record them. 45 minutes after the fire starts, Schmidt-Peterson's group calculates that the disaster is at its peak. The fire is out of control. The interior is filled with deadly smoke. All of the victims in the cabins and hallways have died, either trapped in their cabins or lost in the interior. The first rescue vessel, the Stena Saga, is still 5 minutes away. Investigators remain puzzled because in emergency situations, the crew is responsible for the safety of passengers, and they're supposed to be trained to handle emergencies. It's clear that they did not know how to handle the disaster on board the Scandinavian Star. Investigators check the ship's logs and registers and interview the crew. Then they discover the truth. The seeds of the disaster were planted more than 2 weeks before the fatal fire. The Scandinavian Star was rushed into service as a ferry cruise ship and had only been in Scandinavian waters for 15 days. Before that, she was working as a casino cruise ship with a different crew more than 3,400 miles away in Miami. The ship's managers scheduled just 10 days to convert the ship from a casino cruise ship to a passenger ferry and train an almost completely new crew. Not nearly enough time. Not one single fire drill had been carried out. Even worse, they discovered that many of the new crew didn't speak English or any of the Scandinavian languages. So confusion in the multilingual crew is a problem from the very start of the ferry's journey. When the catastrophe happens, the crew organization simply falls apart. The Scandinavian Star was simply an accident waiting to happen. Yet the final key question remains. How did the fire start in the first place? More answers when Seconds from Disaster returns.
Sunday. It begins with a breath, and then we transform every second for the rest of our life. Birth to old age. It's the changes we go through from inside the living body. Sunday at 8. Then, 10,000 blinks, 20,000 breaths, 100,000 beats. It's just another day for the incredible human machine. Sunday at 9 on Nat Geo. February 10th, science says Earth's temperature is rising. Is this our future? Scientists have the answer. 6 degrees could change the world. Premieres February 10th at 8 Eastern on National Geographic.
College is the best time of your life? Yeah, right. I have my final exam in biology tomorrow and I still have no clue.
Biology? No problem. Come here and I'll teach you that.
Oh, no, stop. The test tomorrow is all about the theory of biochemistry, not about its practice. I can't cover both in one night.
Sure you can. Here, have a Red Bull. It vitalizes body and mind.
Then what?
Then we start with practice and work our way back to theory.
Red Bull gives you wings.
Cheez-It packs so much real cheese in such a small bite. People are wondering,
How does Cheez-It do it?
It's simple, really.
that's a go.
Cheez-It.
Lots and lots of cheese baked into little bites. Cheez-It, the big cheese.
Take a good look around, and if you're looking down, put a little love in your heart.
Smart Balance Buttery Spread. Enjoy its award-winning buttery taste and support healthy cholesterol.
Put a little love in your heart.
Try the Smart Balance Food Plan. Reduce saturated fats and maintain healthy cholesterol. In your heart, you know it's smart. Visit smartbalance.com for details.
Steve Odell is a real Geico customer, not a paid celebrity. So to help tell his story, we hired a celebrity.
Recently, my father was carjacked at knife point.
Oh, honey, that's all right. This face has seen more knives than a Benihana.
Geico handled the whole thing with unbelievable sensitivity.
Sensitivity. I can't feel my face.
I was so impressed I switched to Geico and saved over $600.
I was very happy.
Geico. Real service, real savings.
Am I smiling? I can't tell, Steve. I can't.
Thinking about LASIK? See what LASIK Plus can do for you. With LASIK Plus, you're choosing the nation's leading LASIK provider. And now LASIK Plus makes it easy for you to have LASIK today and pay nothing for 12 months interest-free.
I chose LASIK Plus because the numbers made sense.
Call now to speak to a LASIK professional and schedule a free, no-risk, no-obligation LASIK vision exam with one of our doctors and find out if you're a candidate for LASIK.
I chose LASIK Plus because my first exam was so thorough, I knew I was in good hands.
Hundreds of thousands of people love the great results and personalized care they get with LASIK Plus.
I chose LASIK Plus because they have a great track record for getting the best results.
Other LASIK providers may require minimum monthly payments. Call LASIK Plus to get LASIK today and pay nothing for 12 months, interest-free. This offer won't last, so call the number on your screen now. It's time to see what LASIK Plus can do for you. Call 1-800-216-2020. 1-800-216-2020.
This is our favorite night sky. And this is our favorite place to spend 30 years to life. At Nat Geo, we try not to pick favorites, but this time we couldn't help it. 5 nights of our favorite shows. The best of National Geographic Channel starts Monday at 8 on Nat Geo.
And now the conclusion of Seconds from Disaster. Investigators determine how a catastrophic fire races through the Scandinavian Star. Now they focus on how the fire starts, and they make a chilling discovery. It isn't the first fire on board the ship that night. 15 minutes before the fatal blaze, there's another fire. Kristen Blendheim witnesses it firsthand as it happens right outside his cabin.
I tear the door open and see flames from the floor to high up under the ceiling. So, I dive to the bed, tear off my bedclothes, and run out into the corridor, and throw them over the flames and stamp on them to put the flames out.
The captain is alerted of the fire, and it's quickly extinguished. Kristen is told that everything is under control, but it isn't. No one checks for another fire, no alarms sound, and no fire doors are shut until it's too late. Little evidence of the first fire remains, but the official report concludes that it was probably started by a single flame. Schmidt-Peterson's investigators failed to find any evidence that the second fire could have started accidentally.
Well, that led us to the likely conclusion that this was set on purpose with a match or a lighter.
Someone deliberately set the star on fire. It was arson. But who the arsonist is may remain a mystery forever. When police begin background checks of the victims, they find that one of the Danish passengers has a police record. With 4 previous convictions for arson, police suspicion turns towards him. However, the Scandinavian Star had 2 sister ships when she worked in the U.S., and all 3 of them suffered major fires in the 7 years preceding the disaster. In fact, only 2 years before the fatal voyage, there was a major incident on the Scandinavian Star. Her engine room caught fire. The ship was heavily criticized at the time by the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board. One of their main findings was the lack of a common language among the crew, exactly what the Scandinavian investigators conclude. A deadly chain of events leads to the disaster, yet a break anywhere in the chain might have prevented or at least reduced the catastrophe. If the crew had been better prepared, more passengers might have been evacuated. If the captain had responded effectively to the first arson attack, the second fire might have been caught sooner. If someone had been on deck 3 to report the fire, it never would have gained such a deadly hold. If there had been smoke or heat alarms in the passenger areas, the fire could have been caught when it was still small. If all the fire doors had been shut immediately, the fire would have been trapped and unable to spread. If the alarm had been louder, more of the sleeping passengers would have been roused in the rear of Deck 5. If the walls had been fitted with a fireproof lining that did not produce poisonous smoke, people could have survived. But none of these things happened, and 158 people perished. In a part of the world that prides itself on attention to safety, this fire shakes Scandinavians to the core. It is one of their worst maritime tragedies, with the official report condemning the ferry operating company and the captain. Captain Larson, the ferry company's owner and shore manager, are all put in jail for 6 months for their negligence. For the survivors, the devastating effects of the tragedy remain. 11-year-old Heidi Jensen's dreams are haunted for years.
I kept imagining that there was fire around me, around my feet. I thought there were flames everywhere. When I was in one room, I'd imagine next door was full of flames.
Jan Harsum raised his son Halvor alone and didn't remarry for 12 years. He has since become an expert in safety at sea, devoting much of his time to improving safety standards on ships operating around the world.
The issue of ships with inadequate safety is international. So you could be traveling in Europe, you could be in the USA, and you could at any time find yourself in the same situation, because this problem has not been resolved.
But out of the disaster emerged lessons and a glint of hope. Even if the Scandinavian Star had better equipment and a safer design, the passengers would still have been at the mercy of substandard training and a crew that didn't speak the same language. This was the ultimate lesson of the Scandinavian Star accident. It influenced the development of new international safety codes. These place more responsibility on the owners and operators of ships to make sure their crews are properly trained and prepared for emergencies. The hope is that the tragedy of the Scandinavian Star will make journeys at sea safer for every passenger.